the campaigns, and or at least it looks a bit too convenient for the president. It is 19 months to the elections. We cannot ignore that fact, Rachel.
Yes.
Don't you think that this is just a way of campaigning, and President William Ruto giving 50,000 shillings to 800,000 youth is a perfect way to kickstart your campaigns?
You know, the president is a politician, so he could as well be using this to popularize himself and also endear the youths, who are a sizable voting bloc, hoping that they've taken up and they've registered as voters. But I want to look at it differently also, that the NYOTA initiative is there to help the young people if properly utilized. Leave alone the politics aside. He could be using this to popularize himself, and it is timely, because I don't want you to forget that I just helped you to yesterday, you know. But then if looking at the targeted group of the youth, remember they're looking for people who've not gone to school. So my advice to the team advising the president, this is a very good initiative. I'm not sure whether it is skill-based. They say they're training them prior, which is a good thing. But remember, we have the TVETs. I wish the focus would have been in TVETs for the artisanry work, so that these young people move from artisanry to certificate to diploma, and eventually even become specialized in particular area. With that kind of focus at artisanry, if you give them the money, because this is a very short course that they're taken through, I think it's a month or less than a month, then they're given the money now to invest. But if you're taken through a proper training, then you pick that as your profession. Then whatever amount of money you are given, let me say like you want to start a salon, or you want to start selling maize by the roadside, or whatever, because the kind of money that they're given as capital, as seed capital, it is a good amount of money depending on the kind of business that you would want to use it for. But can we give them the proper training, empower them well, so that this does also not just fall like the hustler fund, where they are given money and there's no proper accountability within these youths and all that kind of stuff. And then the money is just misappropriated or misused by the youth. So my advice would be, yes, it is a good capital, depending on where one is, depending on your situation, depending on what do you want to do with the money. Because that 20,000 shillings can start up a kiosk, which can eventually be a supermarket. That 20,000 can start a small retail shop that eventually become a wholesaling shop. So depending on what one would want to use it for. But my advice would be, can these young people, instead of putting them together like that, can they go to a TVET for proper training?
Yes.
We have TVETs, and the government is offering TVET training almost for free. Why can't they be taken to TVETs, get proper training, so that when you get outside there and your certificate, then at that point of graduation, then the government supports you to start something.
All right.
You are getting out and more empowered, both financially, and you have the requisite knowledge to run whatever business that one would want to run.
Yes.
So mine would be looking at it in that way.
Yes, because Bwana Lote, definitely there's a difference between, and it's clear as Rachel puts it, a difference between economic empowerment and political tokenism. It's simply the knowledge gap. That yes, for me to empower you with that amount, I should take you through some proper training. The other one is I just give you money to make you happy, and call it empowerment.
Well, three reasons why this is not political. One, in the manifesto of the Kenya Kwanza, which then forms the UDA and the presidency now, they actually talked about uplifting the people at the bottom. Actually, the kind of people that receive 50,000 shillings from the government to start a business is actually uplifting people at the bottom. Two, it is not the people, all the people that are given this money, all of them will not vote for William Ruto, and I have not seen William Ruto asking them for votes. He just said it is important that we give them money. So I will vote. I'll actually say if elections come, not everybody that receives this money will vote for William Ruto. So it is not political. He has not given them to entice them. He's given them so that they can start a business. And we know that some of the greatest businesses that we've got now in the world actually started from an idea and a small income and a small capital. such as this. We know of people who have started from the streets and finally they became multi-million enterprises. So we cannot say that it's political. And the third reason why it's not political is that every region in this country receives this funding and that the beneficiaries are not vetted by anybody. You apply online and you're picked online. And so basically, I really do not want it to be put together with politics. If it was something that, an idea that came recently, I'll then probably think William Ruto is using it.
Don't you think that if it was not politics or linked to the campaigns, that it would not necessitate the president to go out everywhere to be dishing out this? That can be done by other senior government officials from the ministry? But
we've got a president that actually is more vibrant. He's not a president that sits in the State House like many others. We have seen William Ruto not only on this, including on small matters such as launching a housing project. So it is his nature. So let us not vilify him for that, because it is his nature to ensure that he sees through activities. And to be true, he said even to his cabinets that he has more knowledge of many things. And he believes actually in many things than many of these people. So the fact that he goes out to launch this basically tells you that it was his manifesto, he believed in it, and he wants to empower the young people. And to add to what Rachel has said here, there's a lot of TVETs training that have taken place, and there are a lot of Kenyans that have actually gone through this. And when they come out of these colleges, they got no money to start. And most of them will tell you, they will talk to me, they will talk to any member of parliament, including her, please support me with a toolbox so that I can start my business. Please support me with a cookery so that I can start a small hotel. And this is exactly what this money is doing.
Shouldn't those such people be the direct beneficiaries of such a program and not this random selection of other people? People who have actually gone through proper training.
Of course, many Kenyans. I actually had one of the Tanzanian preachers who came to my church and he said, just being in Kenya is equal to being in Form 6 in Tanzania. Kenya, by itself, is a training ground. Any Kenyan given money can be able to transform. Even Trump said it in the US. He said Kenyans are enterprising. When they go to the US, they don't depend on the social services. They actually be able to live by themselves. When Africans were being de-whipped from the US, Kenya was not be part of those that are supposed to deposit a security before they go to the US, because the US people have already seen Kenyans are enterprising. So we do not really need much training to start selling mayai on the streets. We just need to be a Kenyan, because the environment itself is a university by itself. So if all those people that have been given money, those that have even gone to the university might not be able to pick up like those that have just been taught by the streets how to survive. So for me, I think William Ruto is casting the net wide so that Kenyans that are enterprising will pick up and come out. And I believe 10 years after this, there are Kenyans that are going to give a testimony of how this money has been able to transform them. Of course, there are others that will definitely have lost this money.
Okay. Bonagakuya, you have a special position because when this idea was mooted, you are the chair, Trade Committee in the National Assembly. You understand this program and what it was intended for. Now it comes very close to an election, the kind of rollout you see. Was this the intention, or is this more of a campaign tool?
Number one, in Demuri, let us all agree that we have like 70% of our youth jobless. And what we are doing as a country is to look for jobs outside this country through their skills. I think what we are not doing locally is to look for mechanisms of Singapore direction. We must also ask ourselves, what made Singapore to be how it is? What made those other developed countries to be where they are? It's trusting themselves and making sure that they use their resources prudently to make sure that they build empire within themselves. This is what we are not doing in our country. And let me tell you, even though we are using this particular method of dishing out this money, well and good, because few will benefit out of this. But is it not a drop in the ocean compared vis-a-vis the jobless youths? What are you going to do with the rest? I think the best idea for a nation that is intending deliberately to rescue youth from poverty is one, to build a startup fund. That startup fund, you don't require free money. you need to look for, because there is a very big space for business. There's 30% in the government and all counties where youths have been chanced to do business. But you know what? The banks in our country has no trust again with what we call award debtors. Those award debtors, if the youths could be having, the government could have built what we call trust with the banks. And banks buy the idea of these award debtors. Our youths, you can rescue them. Because any youth that can get a job or a project can move to a bank using that award debtor, getting money to start up to move to business. This is the conducive environment that the government should fight for, so that you can be able to create an environment for everybody. But if you create an environment for few number, what about the rest? What are you going to do with them? I think the government should make a deliberate move to make sure that they secure the route to move out the youth from poverty. There is a bill that the House passed of the startup bill. That startup bill is purely to make sure that our people who are skilled to business can be able to access business using this money. And this money is not for free.
Was that the original idea?
That was the original idea. That this money was to be startup money. But it's not fairly money to dish out in the manner that is being used.
Okay.
This I can tell you for sure. At the tail end, it will earn some mileage, some political mileage, but to ease the poverty from youth. Today I have seen a lot of complaint where this also money is being dispersed in portions. Some are saying we have already gotten 28,000, 22,000 are missing. So we also need, as much as we want to make the youth grow, give them that particular duano that they can be able to fish directly, and all of them have an opportunity to do so. But if you get selective number, if one thing, if this hustle fund was something to do to ease problems within our youth and SMEs, we could make it on a way that there are cluster of various, that you cannot compare a business or a skilled person who want to start a business of 5,000 and what he can only get is 500. That is a drop in the ocean. You can't go anywhere. Therefore, make mechanisms that can provide future way of managing the economic way of these SMEs, these young people. But 50,000, that's okay, it's a good money. But most of them are not yet trained. Most of this money will go to the share.
Yeah. And you've seen a lot of waste even with the Hustler Fund. They said that the repayment levels were about below 60%, or the default rate was actually above 60%. Yeah. There's no level of accountability once you dish out this money this way. It could just as well be campaign tokens, whether they start businesses or not. Yet it's taxpayers' money and we have to repay this loan to the World Bank. Don't you agree that, okay, fine, probably it needed a little more thought, some better structures, Bwana Gakuya says?
I tend to agree with that. Why? Because there has to be a mechanism on evaluating the impact, let's say of a Hustler Fund. So if Hustler Fund did well, then how then do we enhance Hustler Fund? For example, instead of starting a new program called NYOTA Fund, then how then do we enhance Hustler Fund to reach more youths than it probably did if the target were the youths? But Hustler Fund, I think, was just open to each and every one of us. But again, there has to be proper structures to monitor the impact and the progress of some of these initiatives. If they're not anchored in any proper policy framework, then we tend to see what we have seen with Hustler Fund, where you cannot attribute the impact of Hustler Fund to anything, and yet we've seen billions and billions of shillings channeled through that particular program. So this one, as the president continues to empower the youth financially, which is equally a good thing, but let us have proper structures so that it's not wasted money.
Okay.
It's not wasted money. whether it is taxpayers, it was a grant or otherwise. We don't need to waste money in the name of just giving it out to 16,000 or 30,000 or 1 million youths, and then we don't see a proper impact on it. It would be something so sad to see a year later checking how impactful the initiative was, and then you see maybe only 5,000 out of 5 million youths really have done something substantial with it. It is not a matter of only we are changing one life, but then can we use this channel to empower youth the right way? That's why I keep repeating that we need to take our youths for TVETs. There are artisanry programs within these TVETs. Just take them for proper training. Let them learn from those TVETs. Once they go there, then we can have a program where the graduates then are being given financial assistance to do what? To start up, for those who want to start a business. Again, not everyone is business-minded. Not everyone has the business acumen. So you cannot say that we are going to give everyone because you can start something. Not true. Yeah. So we need to focus on who is interested in doing what, and can we probably have a data of all the youths whom have we given or within the TVET sector, even those who have graduated with diploma, because they're even at a better advantage of starting up businesses than those people, as you say, you are not working, you are above 18, so let's give you money to start up something.
This money is from the World Bank. It's not a grant. It's a 5 billion shilling credit line, and we have to pay it back. But it would appear it's down to the president to dish it out without proper structures. This went through the National Assembly as well. Don't you think the National Assembly there probably just handed the president a campaign tool?
First of all, the National Assembly is considered to be an assembly made up of members from both parts of the political party. And every committee, including this committee that passed this bill, is a committee that is composed of everybody. And so they considered it very carefully. Two, Fred, I think we talk about structured way of disbursing funding, structured ways of doing this. But how many of our incidences have we actually seen that even within the structured way of doing things, we've failed as a nation? We talk about our path to Singapore, and we say that we were with Singapore some times ago in terms of levels of development, but that Singapore, because of its policies, went ahead. And yet, from the time when Singapore was moving, we had the structured ways of doing things. And the structured ways of doing things have never proven that we can be able to move. So sometimes to be innovative as we are now, to be able to try to give credit to our youths, to try their luck into businesses, it could pay off. So let us not say that we're thrown money to people to entice them, so that the money is in the economy.
Okay.
The money, you remember, after the failed elections of the repeated elections of 2013, we had what we call what fund was that? There is a state fund that is running up to now. Monies that were supposed to be used for elections.
We had the youth fund.
There's the youth fund. There's the other Weather fund. Weather fund. Yeah. There are people right now that can give you testimonies of how much they have been able to utilize the Weather Fund and actually grow in their businesses. And even up to now, there are people applying for Weather Fund and they are repaying. At the time when we were giving out the Weather Fund, I know there was a lot of noise just like this one. Like we are throwing monies into Kenyans without thinking. It was money that was meant for election. And many years after, Weather Fund is running. Weather Fund is empowering people. And so for me, I'll say we have tried every other structured way of giving out money, and some of it has failed. Why don't we try to ensure that our youth that could have very bright ideas of businesses could probably, and the reason why many of the European countries become innovative is because they got what we call the venture capital. They have money that they can just use to try, to just try. They're given money to try. And based on those trials, they've actually seen them innovating and actually bring up things like Google, like YouTube, like that is actually making money. So this money for us is thus like that venture capital money where they're given, please try your luck on business. And this trial will bring out millionaires. Of course, there are those that will not be able to repay, but there are those that will definitely benefit out of it that become millionaires in future.
All right. 6 minutes. 6 minutes. Allow me just to give you each 2 minutes now for your final comments, and you can choose whichever way to go. Let's start with you, Rachel.
I wanted to ask him something, since they are privileged to sit in Bunge, just a quick one. How much or what would it take the government to merge these funds and have it more structured and more targeted and more impactful?
All right. They'll get to answer probably as they make their final comments. Are you ready for your final comment, or we go with Bwana Gakuya? Final comments.
Thank you, Dimoli. Let me see. One, for good planning, because you build your empire by proper planning and prudent use of resources. I don't think that it is anywhere fair to borrow, because this money is a borrowed money from World Bank, which will be paid by taxpayers. And you don't want to use any structured way of recovery of this money. Therefore, it means that money has gone for free. But you have given Kenya's burden to pay back to World Bank using their taxes. It is not a proper planning. And I will repeat that. You should not use a mechanism of free gifts. Allow people to have structured way of earning their businesses or building the economy, where they can borrow at a very low percentage, very low interest. But let them be active. Mm-hmm. They borrow and they pay back. You better lose little, that out of maybe 100%, there can be 30% and recovered, but you recover 70%. That way, you are moving forward. But it's wrong to use this kind of mechanism, and you are trying to tell us that you want to make people out of poverty. A free donations can get waste, but anything sweat that somebody feels that he needs to work it and work it perfectly and build an empire going forward. We have not made any mechanism even to make a research on how do you give these people. Okay. Why do we give you? We have just used an electronic kind of application, which you only check what somebody qualifies to do. But you have not done any test, you have that kind of route to give out things on this kind of route. It is a poor management.
All right. Rachel, you go next.
Thank you. Just two things. One, on education. I'm pleading with the leaders of this country that they really put a lot of focus on our children's education. It is not right and that unfair that we see the kind of pain that parents are going through and students are going through after performing very well in schools, and yet focus is not even on the children who performed well. You see a child who is going to Alliance, and that I don't know whether he was from Embakasi North.
We have assisted him.
You've assisted him, but you don't have to wait until it is in such state, then you come out, because not everyone can reach the media houses. So I want to believe that there should be a structured way through which these members of parliament particularly can know how many students performed, in how many schools do we have, and are these children able to transit to the next level of education? Seeing the kind of things we are seeing on television is really saddening as a nation that wants to go to Singapore. And you don't want to empower your children so that they partake of Singapore tomorrow. Right. Because then what will you leave for the children of this nation? So focus should really be put in education sector, so that first the system is in place. We are seeing schools without even students, and no one talks about them. And the leaders in those areas are just okay talking on media houses about that. And secondly, the unity of our party, ODM. I'm imploring on each and everyone, let us support the leadership. Let us ask ourselves, and everyone is saying, what would BAMBA do at this point? BAMBA would have told you, if someone is in leadership, give them the respect that they deserve. Support them in that leadership until your time comes that you're able to lead. So let us support the leadership which is there, even as we push for any other reform that we would want within the party.
All right. Thank you, Rachel. Finally, Bwana Lute.
Thank you very well. I think personally, I'm happy that the youth's getting funding to try into businesses, and for anybody who is against this should try and face the youth and tell them it is not right for them to get the funding. That the funding needs to go to the people that we know that are for decades not been able to prudently utilize this. I think it is important that let the youth also are given a chance to be able to try businesses that they would have not tried otherwise because of the little capital. It is little, but we know of mamambogas, chamas that actually borrow 1,000 shillings a day, and they have been able to move families because of that. The last one is, I think the political debacle this year, we are only going to elections next year. What Gachagua is doing is very good for William Ruto, and is actually making a clear path for William Ruto to win in 2027. The opposition is in disarray, and if they continue like this, I think we are not going to have an opposition candidate come next year.
Why don't you think there'll be an opposition candidate?
Because they're fighting each other. If you start imploding from within, you're giving a proper pathway to the incumbent, because the incumbent has got a lot of foothold on many of the things in the state based on the fact that they are incumbent. If you are not organized, if you are fighting within yourself, if you're letting members run away from you instead of coming to you, you're basically creating a super highway for the incumbent to win. And the William Ruto that we know is a political supremo. If he gets this kind of a penalty, he will definitely score. He will not miss.
I don't know if Bwanagakwe would want to respond to that.
But I can tell you, my good friend, that we are not, as much as William is a primo in politics, don't think we are also naive politically. And do not think that the lion is dead when you find it sleeping over a particular lane or a ninja. And therefore, you might try to think that Gachagua is moving to the wrong direction. But I can tell you, at the tail end, Gachagua will also make the same opposition to unite. And I can tell you, whether you think that that's a window for William Ruto to grab it, you lose it.
All right.
He needs to start having a uniting tank, not a dividing tank.
All right. Yeah, by the way, I read this headline here. And yes, Gachagua, is he the united opposition's unifying figure or a bull in a Chinese shop? So there's that perception in the dailies. Yes, and that story about a candidate is there on page 3. Help me raise funds to take up my sport at Alliance High School. And this young boy is called John Mwalili. He's apparently scavenging for plastic bottles at Kware dumping site for a week. He has been doing that. And he has only this venture has only yielded about 300 shillings. But Bwanagakwe, you say he has since received
we have sorted one from Wango Primary. And actually she enrolled yesterday.
Okay.
To school.
All right. Yeah. But such cases are indeed quite a number. And on the same page, chief clears orphans to beg for school fees. This is a very sad story. And
remember what I can add to that. Because we have a kitty for that particular concern. People who have this kind of need should move to the CDF offices, because that is the center of application of any need, and that is where they should move. Because in Nairobi, we're in a very small village where you can always walk a distance. It's not anywhere that you're moving 50 kilometers away. It's a walking distance. The office is the center of the constituency.
Yes.
Kindly please move there. If you think that you are out, you are there, and you are a needy person, move to the office, you'll be assisted.
Right. And again, just allow me to weigh into this education thing. One, I don't think if it is also right for members of parliament or the governors or these people dishing out these bursaries, that a child needs to reapply each and every year. If a child was orphaned last year, clearly, Fred, that child is still orphaned. Now, unless something really happens and they get a sponsor, their condition is basically the same. So this idea of lining up people to apply for bursaries is just lack of proper mechanism on how do you manage bursaries. And secondly, I think Akuya, you can take this up, or my friend Titus, you can take this up into Bunge and ensure that why can't we offer free secondary school education? Why can't we put all these bursaries together, from the ministry, from the presidential kitty, from members of parliament, the women rep, ward reps, and all these reps, so that our children can access education. Fairness and equity is one of the key tenets of governance,
yes,
and that they should look
at. It's a very sad story.
This is what we call a ruling government policy. If the government wants this particular fund all to be collated together, it is very easy and possible. And therefore, the government should initiate a process toward that direction. Because for sure, Kibaki only said it will be free primary education. And up to date, it is there. Why can't the government declare secondary school free?
Okay.
Yeah. And also, I would also to add one thing. As much as people like Dede Nyoro want to, they want to believe that a student can pay 500 shillings, they should also understand we are not from the same dynamic. I am in schools that are over 40,000 needy students. He operates with 10,000. And he's only dealing with what we call day schools. Day schools. I also deal with what we call day schools and the other secondary accommodated school. And let me tell you, my students, I support even those who are learning out of my constituency. Because they come from my constituency. I don't deal with only those schools in my constituency. 70% of the beneficiaries are not within Embakasi North. They are outside. But they come from Embakasi. So I support them even when they are schooling from outside schools.
All right. Bwana Lote, I'm sure you'd want to venture into this story as well. CDF has come into sharp focus with what's happening there, and many people believe that it should do more. There's a story here on page 3, a very sad story. This is a striking sign of desperation. A chief in Tarbo, in Gishu County, has officially sanctioned a family of 7 orphans to beg for school fees so that one of them can join senior school. Definitely something that an MP through the CDF kitty can attend to?
Yeah, well, I think those sad facts are littered across this country. And